Hey, it's Tony Tattoo coming at you from the wonderful Kildares Pub in the deep southwest of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This is Wide Open YYC. Today I want to talk about the Game of Thrones. As we know, we just had Season 8 that had just concluded, and I would like to talk a little bit about that. For you 1%ers out there, I've never seen an episode of the show. I'm sorry, you're probably not going to relate to it, but I can actually give you a quick overview of what the show's about. The show is kind of like medieval mafia families that had nothing better to do but run around and whack each other and sleep with their own kin. So it's kind of like The Sopranos meet Deliverance. So you know you're only about a mile away from where you hear banjos playing and also little quips like, "Hey boy, you got a pretty mouth." So that's basically the bottom line of that. I have to say the show was intriguing. My only issue was that there was so much time between seasons that I forgot what the fucking thing was about by the time it came back on again. But I had to be reminded by my wife, who, by the way, remembers everything. And last episode was shown last night and was said to be the highest viewed episode of any HBO series or show. Now, there are over 1 million entitled people who have signed a petition to have Season 8 rewritten because they felt the writing was subpar. By the way, the episodes filmed in Season 8 cost no less than $10 million an episode, so wrap your head around that a bit. So here's my 2 bits on this. Write your own set of fantasy novels, get yourself an HBO series that will last longer than 1 season, then write it however you want and stop your whining or find a hobby for 9 o'clock on Sunday nights. The one thing I noticed was the writing was kind of a reflection of the times that we're in right now. So I did a little comparison between the show's characters and today's politicians and their wives. So only the 99%ers who watch the show and who also stay in touch with politics will get this. So let's start with the low-hanging fruit. President Donald Trump, King Joffrey, of course, who else? Melania Trump, Sansa Stark, Joe Biden, Ned Stark, Cersei Lannister, Hillary Clinton, Ramsay Bolton, no other than our boy Justin Trudeau, of course. Who else would it be? Grey Worm, Barack Obama, Missandei, Michelle Obama, Arya Stark, Michelle Rempel, Daenerys Targaryen. You know that whack job Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez in the States? She's perfect. Brienne of Tarth, Theresa May. She's the PM of Great Britain, if you don't know. Jaime Lannister, Andrew Scheer, Tyrion Lannister, the Mooch, the Scaramucci, the Mooch, yeah. And finally, Jon Snow. Robert F. Kennedy, because he by far was the most noble politician in our time. Let me know if you think of anything else, or if you think that I was off base or off target. You can join us for the discussion on Facebook. We are now on Facebook. And also Twitter or Instagram. We have a great show coming up for you today. Just remember, be nice to people. And keep it between the ditches and Fran Henderson.
Hey, it's Dan and Kaz, and it's Footy Talk for this week, May the 19th?
20th.
20th, yeah, 20th. So it's Monday?
Monday.
Oh,
Victoria Day.
God bless our queen.
We went to the El Clasico match on Saturday, didn't we?
Yes, and I had to actually look it up, but I guess it's called the Al Clasico because it's a take on the El Clasico, which is Barcelona and Real Madrid out of Spain every year. So we're doing our own little take on that, the Al Clasico for Alberta.
Yes, and it was a fun and wet afternoon. Lots of good tackles. We controlled the game for most of the match until about 20 minutes before the end. Jordan Brown scored just in the first half, and then 20 minutes before the end, our Marco had to really turn it on, made some great impressive saves. So
Marco Carducci.
And we came away with the 3 points.
Nice.
Which was fantastic. Really, really good. So now we have a 5-point lead over Forge FC.
Yeah, I don't think. Kudos to the Edmonton FC fans who came down here to Kildares Pub in South Calgary. They were great visitors. I hope we did a good job as hosts. Some friendly banter back and forth. nothing too serious. I think we all had a fun time and a good time. And
Yeah.
that's
And they brought their drums.
yeah. I couldn't hear them. They were being drowned out by the cheers of our
Yes, they
victories
were.
and our triumphs. They got kind of quiet towards the second end, but
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah, it made it
happens.
interesting. It was good. Really good fun. So, yeah. And we have a game on Wednesday. It's the first round of the Voyageur Cup, the Canadian Club Championship, which is, I would imagine, the equivalent of the FA Cup in
So
England.
for our fresh viewers into football, this isn't league, so this doesn't count in
No.
Canadian Premier League.
Yeah.
This is a separate year-long tournament that goes on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I guess they'll win a trophy. So hopefully they'll have 2 trophies in the cabinet by the end of the year, which will be awesome. So they're playing at 7:30 on Wednesday against Pacific FC, so get your tickets. There are still season tickets available. I was on the website, and you can get club packs, flex packs, and
You get to come see me yell stuff into a megaphone at the opposing team's goalie.
and he actually did.
Oh, I did. They came up, the Foot Soldiers supporters group, liked what I was saying and thought I should be even louder, which is hard to understand. Why anyone want me to be even louder out there? My producer, of course, is always telling me, stop yelling! But I can't help it. I get so passionate about it.
And yeah, there's been a lot of rain, but as Dan told me, you can get very good orange ponchos from Canadian Tire for how much?
I don't know. It was an impulse buy. I didn't even hear the register.
So
It was cheap. I know. It's plastic. Kept the rain off.
it's all good fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the big stadium, the big stand doesn't have a roof yet, so make sure you do have.
Well, they do.
ponchos.
They do on the east side of the field, the pitch. The east side is all covered.
All of it is?
Yeah, it's all covered. I made a note of noticing that. It's all covered, so if it is raining, you don't have to worry about that. But apparently Wednesday the weather's supposed to be good. We're not going to have to worry about that. It's the south and the north side.
Yeah.
But, it's a little bit of rain. You're not the Wicked Witch of the West.
No.
Nut up, shut up, and come out. It'll
I
be
was
fine.
soaked. It was great.
Yeah.
My hair went all curly like it did when I was a kid. Who cares?
Yeah, you like being wet.
Dan,
So that's...
this is not No Limits.
Oh, sorry, I get confused. So that's football in Alberta. What's going on our broader spectrum?
Well, I do want to give a shout out to Manchester City, who won the FA Cup 6-0 on Saturday. And they just seem to be winning everything. They are the first ever men's English team to have won the domestic treble. So
Ooh,
that
sounds like treble for the rest of the teams.
very good. Boom. So they won the Premier League. They won the Carabao Cup, which was the old League Cup, and
We have caribou here in Alberta.
Caribou.
Is that the...
Carabao.
Oh.
Carabao.
Sorry. I thought it was the herd of caribou.
That would make things very interesting
Yeah.
over there. They wouldn't know what to do with that. So that's really cool. Roger and Helen, I know you'll be really happy about that.
So that was the first men's team to complete the trifecta.
The domestic trifecta.
Okay.
There have been teams over there that have won a couple, like 2 domestic and 1 European.
Okay.
But domestic, like within the country, their competitions, that's the first time that's happened for the men, not for the women.
There's been a women's team that's completed this before.
The domestic treble. Yes. Go girls!
Yeah, absolutely.
So there was another story I read about, and I couldn't believe it, but this guy from England, Ben Speller, he went on to Airbnb site because he wanted to go and see one of the European Championship semi-finals. And so the ad said, clean home with a private bathroom.
Sounds like heaven.
I know.
Now, what city was this supposed
This was Amsterdam. It was $100 for
It's
one
hard
night.
to find a clean home with a bathroom in Amsterdam. Those dirty Dutch.
Well, I would have been not very happy if this had been me.
All right, what happened?
£100, not $100, £100. So you paid for it.
Money is really heavy in England, in case you guys.
Yeah.
£100. Can you imagine hauling £100 around in your wallet? Just like pants are falling down and shit. I don't get it.
We need to take you over there. You'd love it. I need to educate you. We'd be falling over.
You know how many women have told me they need to educate me?
We'd be falling over pubs and castles. You'll love it.
Oh, you just trip over castles over there?
Totally.
That sounds great.
Absolutely.
Sorry. This guy's in Amsterdam. £100, clean house, private toilet. He gets there.
He's driving down the road, up and down, up and down. He sees this thing on the side of the road, and he said, that can't be it, that can't be it. Well, he stopped, opened the door. It was a container, a shipping container.
It's like a sea can.
Yeah. And it had 3 mattresses in it, and attached to it was a porta potty.
Okay, well, a sea can is what? 30 feet long by 8 feet wide?
That's disgusting.
Does it have...
A clean home, a container is not a home.
Home is where the heart is.
Well, it's not in Amsterdam then. Airbnb, I mean, I've heard stories about this.
It's waterproof, which is really important in Amsterdam.
If you went there with a girlfriend, with your fiance, your wife-to-be,
Yep.
lovely
And
Rebecca, and you walked to the side of the road, and you opened the door, and you had a shipping container, how would you feel?
I'd be disappointed, sure. Yeah. But nothing on the ad, to my knowledge, lied. It is a 4-wall with a roof structure with a bathroom. Technically, that's proper. But
it's not a home, it's a container.
No.
They just shoved a couple of mattresses in there. And a porta potty, that's just so wrong. So, anywho.
Agree to disagree on that one, I guess.
Airbnb took it off the listing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we won, so I'm sure he was quite happy about that.
We tied that in with the footy talk because he was there for football.
Yes.
Poor bastard.
Yes.
But I think he needed to make the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, I'm sure by the time that the game was done, he was so drunk he didn't really care where he put his head down.
Just like where I will be on Wednesday, so drunk I don't care where I put my head down. I'm in section 200, row 6, seat 26. You come find me. We'll have a pint or we'll have a fight. Either way, we're going to enjoy it.
You come see me, you have a laugh.
Yeah.
You'll find me. You'll find me anywhere when I laugh.
Take care, guys. That's it for this week.
Yeah.
God bless. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Hey, this is Tony Tattoo coming at you at the wonderful Kildare's Pub in the deep southwest of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This is Bar Talk. I'm here with Lee and I'm here with Tappy. And I'll tell you what, we're just going to have a little bit of fun. Just like we would at the Wood, have a little conversation. In my monologue, I started out with the Game of Thrones that I've been kind of sucked into watching, and then going over some of the shows that have come up. Lee haven't had a chance, from what I understand, to really get into it. It is a bit of a you have to commit a bit of time to it to kind of understand those storylines and stuff like that. Which my biggest beef was the fact that there's so much time between seasons that you totally forgot the plot by the time it came around. So what was the kind of the thing that you saw on the show that you watched up to season 5?
Yes.
So I'm not going to spoil the rest of it for you.
Thank you for not spoiling.
Everybody gets whacked.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. No.
I think I really was attracted to the show is how tragic it is, and then how how they really get into the characters, and then they just pull the characters like nothing, like they never existed. And I think the storyline is just amazing, and so I was really interested in it. that go off.
The funny part is that there's like over 1 million viewers now that have signed a petition complaining about the writing in season 8
No way.
and going, you know what, we're not happy with this. We want the season rewritten.
No way.
I can't make that stuff up. Yeah, they're saying we're unhappy with who got whacked and who is betting who and who.
Isn't it
and
a
all
book
this.
though? Is that book written yet?
Well, yeah, the fact is the book hasn't been written yet, or it hasn't been finished yet. So the writers took the HBO kind of just went ahead and wrote their own thing, and so the book hasn't even been completed yet. And
that is so cheeky. Let me. I think that is atrocious. That is a whiny audience. I hope our audience never gets so whiny that they want to dictate artistic content. If the creators of Game of Thrones were able to give them 7 years of good, fulfilling content, and they have a vision, why is it someone else's job to come in and say, oh, you know what, I wish it was, what do they want it to be? More fluffy? I'm very little in Games of Thrones. I was sent into the abyss a couple of times, and and I guess you can't jump in mid-season. Tony, I'm committing to start watching this show.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start right now. I'll let you know how I make out with it. I'll try to binge watch it and get to season 8 as quickly as possible. But every time I've entered into this show, the interesting thing was, people say, why are you watching Games of Thrones? Like, there's so much sex and violence and drama and intrigue. And I'd watch it, and maybe I caught a episode, and I would call back, and I'd say, there's no sex in there. And the response was, yeah, but it's not like you just meet up and sleep with someone right away. There's a really intricate story that gets woven, and so it's
yeah. Well, I basically said that the show is about medieval mafia families that spend most of their time whacking each other and sleeping with kin.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So how can that not be exciting? It's like Sopranos meets Deliverance.
Actually likes the ending of the show. No one is ever going to be pleased with how something ends.
Let me just finish up on this point by saying, this is well in my wheelhouse. I'm a lawyer, and I'm also a political scientist. And so this whole idea of how the royalties and the consumption and the getting the people out to make and build wealth for this is a story. Prime Minister Trudeau could well be a central figure in the Game of Thrones.
That's funny you say that, because here I go. All right, so one thing I noticed was the writing was a reflection of current time, like the writing of the show, right? And so I did a little comparison between the show's characters and our politicians and their wives.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So, let's start with the low-hanging fruit. All right, so I went Donald Trump, King Joffrey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that little brat that got whacked?
Yeah.
Melania Trump would be Sansa Stark.
Yes.
Yeah. Joe Biden would be Ned Stark.
Oh, yeah.
Cersei Lannister, Hillary Clinton. Come on, you got to give Hillary Clinton to Cersei Lannister.
Yes.
And she's up. Our
Who's
buddy.
Who's the little guy?
No, I'll tell you what. I'll get to that. But I want to talk about JT here for a second.
Okay.
Ramsay Bolton. This guy was a crazy off the dial brat. All right, so
I can't
again,
remember who that is.
maybe he's in season 6 or whatever. But yeah, no, Justin Trudeau. When you see it, Ramsay Bolton. He's like the nutty guy that was like supposed to be married to Sansa Stark, and he treated her like he beat her up and all that stuff. And then he finally got eaten by dogs.
Oh no, I don't know.
Oops, I just gave you.
Can I throw in?
Anyway, so
can I bring it back on JT for just a moment?
Sure, I'd love to.
But only on this one point, and I want to dive back into the narrative here.
Good.
I've been reflecting since the last episode on my feelings on Justin Trudeau and his relationship with Jody Wilson-Raybould and Dr. Philpott, and
let's keep that conversation going.
And I'm trying to reconcile for myself whether Games of Thrones did he have this plan the whole way? Was he really just like his dad and saw the golden rings and was doing whatever it took? pretending to be a feminist, pretending to be an environmentalist, pretending to be all these things just so he could get the ring of power and then hold on to it no matter what it took? Or was this a change? Was there a change that happened and so now reality sets in and you can't just run a government with only environmentalists and First Nations and so did he change his stripes or was he always like that? What do you think?
I think that's really tough. Like, I feel like when you're in that position of power, obviously you want to accomplish something. And what he's trying to accomplish, I think, is really, really, I think there's good intentions behind all of it. But I don't think he knows what he's doing. Like, I don't
I agree
think
with
he's
that.
hired the right people.
I don't think he's smart enough, period.
Yeah, and I don't
Period.
think he is smart enough, period.
You
And,
know,
like, what,
The biggest thing they said, he's just not ready. Well, he absolutely just was not ready. And I don't think he ever will be.
No,
But
and I don't think anyone will be, to be honest.
Whenever I see him start to talk, I see him freeze for a sec going, oh my God, I don't know what I'm even going to say substantively. I hope I have enough charm to
Yeah.
make this, deflect this somewhere else and say warm and fuzzy things like, well, I'm just trying to get Canadians to work. Well, who's not? Who's trying to put Canadians out of work except for governments that wanted First Nations not to work?
I would like to try an experiment with him. So I would like to hook him up to a taser.
Yeah.
And I would like to say basically, all right, JT, I'm going to ask you a question. All right, there's only two ways you can answer it, yes or no. If you'd answer it either way, and other than yes or no, I'm going to press this button. Okay? All right?
Right.
And they'd be like, okay, so, do you know more than you're claiming about Lav Scam? Well, that... Well, there's that... I mean, that guy wouldn't survive if I was on the button, right,
No.
What about Josie Wilson-Raybould? Do you feel that you did the right thing there? Well, me. Oh, that guy'd be dead. I mean, he'd have a different hairstyle by the time I'm done.
Definitely.
Well, listen, I think that is going to happen. I think that those buzzers are happening. We have an election coming up in October, and
Sure.
I have no doubt that he is going to be yesterday's news.
Yep.
What I'm more concerned about now is with him out of the way, thankfully, then what? It's one thing to, I don't want this show to just complain.
Yeah.
You have to also say, but what? I've shared.
Yeah.
I don't think Jason Kenney has the perfect formula. I think Alberta needs to step up for sure and let Ottawa know and Victoria know that we're here. Have a meaningful conversation about the pipelines and everything else, but he hasn't necessarily grabbed my attention. He's not a warm fuzzy, especially from the Indigenous perspective, although I've given him credit for reaching out.
Yeah.
We'll see how that turns out.
Yeah.
But, I'm not sure I fully embrace that part of it. The Conservatives federally, Scheer doesn't seem to me to be a guy I want to go have a beer with. It seems to me, again, just really looking at government money, how are we going to get Ontario and Quebec to support what the rest of Canada has to offer? Who is speaking for the rest of Canada?
Cut off equalization payments.
Well, that's okay, but Alberta
Yeah,
has
but
benefited from equalization payments for longer than it's been I don't know the numbers and how much they've given, but I've lived in Alberta through the 80s and 90s and 2000s. We're great. Now we have this boom. This boom isn't always here.
Yeah.
When the oil's gone, then what are we gonna do? We were talking about this the other day about with all the oil and gas money and even the oil sand money, are we just going to cash this in, send it to India and China to be made into plastic, and then when it's all gone, what about the rest of us who are going to choose to live and stay in Alberta when Shell and Chevron and Husky and everyone else leaves Alberta because oil sands are gone? What are we going to do?
I got a question. Tappy, you have 2 kids, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so what do you think about the future of your 2 kids? Where do you see that?
I don't really know. I personally, I work within the social services sector, so
So you're on the front line.
I'm on the front line, so I see how governments affect people every single day. And I know because oil and gas, because I work for a nonprofit organization, we like my organization depends on the donations of others. So if oil and gas is not up and running, and we have seen the decline of funding from oil and gas companies because there isn't enough money for them to donate, it really affects my organization. Like we have 27 cubicles. I work at a shelter, but only 30% of those cubicles are only funded by the government, which is outrageous. So we have to come up with the rest of the money, like out of the goodness of people's hearts. So now that money isn't coming in, and we only now have 20 cubicles for people who are homeless.
So let me. I know we're kind of all over the place here, but I told you, Tony, that I wanted to invite Dan to a debate on this trickle-down economics, and I want to draw a connection on what you're saying to this debate.
Yeah.
Dan would say, you know what, the bottom, what you call the front lines, this is the bottom 1% of our society that just don't even have the wherewithal to get through the week or the month or the day without some kind of support, right? Sadly and tragically, we have way too many people that are relying on the goodness of others and all of this. Sadly and tragically, I believe you're part Indigenous as well, and Tony and I are as well. There's an overrepresentation of the bottom 1% being Indigenous people.
Definitely.
And so I would argue with Dan this point. I would say, when we leave it to everybody, including major corporate Canada and especially the US, when they come and interfere and, you know, throw Kinder Morgan pipelines in the middle of our country and all those things, they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart to try to leave money, resources, and development in the local economy.
Right.
They want to have on the benefit of their shareholders, because a corporation is a sociopath, psychotic sociopath. They just want to, without any feelings at all about what is in the territory, get all the money to go down to the US, hopefully, or wherever their shareholders are.
Right.
So it's, in my mind, when we say to the frontline workers, well, you know, it's so sad, I correlate it. And if this is bringing back to Games of Thrones, we have people like you and others on the front lines, and there is someone who's crunching numbers in JT's office who's saying, how do we keep those people from dying? Because that's going to be horrible on the front pages. We want to, as efficiently as possible, have our bottom 1% fed and housed. The rest of the economy gets to share on the other 99%.
And a part of that is like, because I always have to remember about the children. There are children that are being affected by this. Yes, parents like have this, like they are being negatively impacted by this. But about the children, and you asked me about the future of my children, and I think it's really important to have the right resources for those kids, so that they don't go into poverty as well.
Tappy, we're almost out of time today, but I'm going to invite you to come back. I'm going to do a show next week, and I want to get into this a little bit more, because what you just reminded me is residential schools is exactly how the cherry on top of this argument.
Exactly.
This was the whole government specifically saying we need to get those children out of the comfort and protection of their parents.
Yeah.
Great. You coming back?
Yeah.
Absolutely, we'd love to have you.
Great.
And I think this is a great conversation that we've had today. This is Tony Tattoo signing off. This is Bar Talk. Join us for the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Check it out. Jump on our page. Thank you.
Hey, it's Tony Tattoo coming at you again from the Kildares Pub in the deep southwest of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We hadn't had the segment on for a while, alternatively, but we figured today would be a good chance to bring that back. And so in the arena today, we have Lee and we have Dan's rant. So there's
So I'm the Lee and he's the alternative, right?
yeah. Exactly. There you go. So there was a topic that came up a little while ago called trickle-down economics and why it works or doesn't work. You guys will have 30 seconds to make your point or make an alternative point. Go.
Me first? All right, Dan, in one of our last episodes, you made a point about trickle-down economics as a way Justin Trudeau doesn't get it, that, it's so plain and obvious that everyone should understand. I am not a trickle-down economics fan. In my mind, trickle-down economics equals greed. Greed equals bad. We don't have enough resources on our planet to continue to harvest carbon footprints enough to sustain 8 billion plus people. And when we have greed, in the same, my lifespan from now, we're going to be looking at 16 billion people, each of them consuming. India and China are consuming more per capita than we were before. So greed is bad.
Go.
I don't believe greed is bad. I believe greed is good. Lowering corporate tax rates and higher tax rates of the upper class allows them to spend and invest more money and create more business, which allows more businesses to thrive. If you look at downtown Calgary, when we had a lower tax rate for corporations, there were more restaurants open. Fact. There were more people working at those restaurants. Fact. We had a thriving core based off of corporate businesses operating within Calgary, and then once our corporate tax rate was increased and it became less profitable to operate within this province, not only within our city tax rates but also our provincial tax rates, they all left because the guys at the top need to make their money, and when they make their money, everybody else makes a little bit more.
Okay.
Rebuttal?
Rebuttal.
All right. So, I get your point, good points. Everyone wants a job, everyone needs to get by. My response is, to what end? As a species of human beings living on planet Earth, when we just say we need to grow for the sake of growing, Donald Trump, in my mind, comes front and foremost. Hey, you know what? We just need to have more American wealth throughout the whole world. And I always just go, to what end? Why is it so good that we just have so much of this consumption? I just went camping. It's May long weekend. I took my trailer out to Little Bow, just an hour and a bit past Calgary. Amazing spot. You know what? I spent a couple $100, but it was so glorious and amazing to be with friends and family. Isn't that what it's all about? Why is it when we say the trickle-down economics, it's to make sure that those billionaires don't take their toys. Who's the Calgary Flames owner that moved to London because he was pissed off about how Canada and Alberta and Calgary are running their affairs? So he went and he took off to the UK. That's trickle-down economics. I say, go ahead, get out of here. If you want to be one of our good people and create good jobs for all Calgarians, all Albertans, and all Canadians, including Indigenous people, and do it in a way where you're saying, great. If you want to be Kinder Morgan, bring your pipeline into Alberta and have all those profits go down to Texas, then I have a problem with that. That trickled, as much as those jobs are great, we're sending all our money out of the country.
If the leashes weren't on corporations and big companies to build refineries, we wouldn't have that, which means tax cuts. If Ken King got a little bit of help from the city of Calgary, then maybe he would build a new arena here as opposed to living somewhere else where he's taxed up the dick because of the money he makes. If he were still living in Calgary, going to the local restaurants, paying high tips to those servers, maybe those restaurants wouldn't close. But no, he's being told, you're very successful. You need to help everybody else out. Why? Why should a doctor who goes to school for 7 years be told, you are very special and important, we're going to pay you this much money, but also, you need to help all the guys who just want to work construction and be a fucking garbage man. That's why it doesn't work. You need people, you need those leaders, and you need them to have the freedom to spend the money that they have earned rightfully, to have that money trickle down and meet other people who don't have necessarily the same advantages, not hardworking enough, but necessarily the same advantages. Furthermore, to that point that you made, Donald Trump is raising tariffs. He is not about consumption, he is about production, which you see when he raises tariffs in China to stop imports coming into his country. He's raising tariffs to make it more incentivized by lowering corporate tax rates and creating opportunity for American companies to produce, because when you produce, you create jobs. That's why their unemployment has gone significantly down to 3.6%. That's why their GDP has skyrocketed, because when you go to Ford and say you're not allowed to import your trucks from Mexico, Ford all of a sudden has to open up a plant in America, which funds American people by giving them jobs. That's how trickle economics work. That's why they are working. That's why they always have worked. The problem is that it takes a while for it to get going, which is why no Reagan or the first Bush or even the second Bush ever got to see any of that come to fruition, because people want everything now, now, now. And trickle economics do work, you just don't see it right away.
So if I could, I'd like about 2 minutes, and I think I can change his mind.
Okay, go.
All right. So Dan, again, not saying you're wrong, because you know what, it's all just a shade of gray. There's a truth and a non-truth, and in between there. But when I hear your analysis, where I find the fatal flaw is that every single person on this planet has some equality. Trickle-down economics has psychotic sociopaths running the world through corporations, major international corporations, that are channeling in China. That's probably the easiest way to think about it. In China, there's no human rights. So all these people go away. They don't get to go camping at Little Bow. They only know 6-day work weeks and one kid, and like their whole life is not unlike cattle in North America, in my estimation. So I don't think we want to aspire to anything like that, where you have state-run economics. So then you say, okay, so what about a US model where you have industry-run economics? I would say this. I have a house in Florida. When I go to Florida, we make sure, probably when you ever travel to the US, you better have health insurance, because you're one slip away from losing your house, losing your job, losing your family, losing everything. This is Donald Trump's way of thinking. Hey, you know what? The bottom 1% are going to self-insure. We're not going to create a social safety net so that one incident that happens in a family all of a sudden takes away everything. We think that in Canada, there should at least be a little bit where, hey, you know what, my wife's a dentist, I'm a lawyer, I have no problems paying taxes. I think that it's amazing that we make sure that other people have access to housing, the education, medical. In the US, you're not guaranteed any of those things. Now, if your point is, yeah, but we don't want to be so socialist that it's like communism where you just get it, sure, you got to work for it, but I just have a problem with the trickle down that's just putting so much on the individual. In the U.S. model, should I be self-insured as 1%?
That is what you just said, that so much on the individual, and that is how I run and operate my life. I am responsible for myself. I am responsible for my family. I don't look for handouts. I don't look for help. If I become a drug addict, that is my choice. That is my decision. Something might have happened to me in my life, but you know what? If 4 out of every 10 women are a victim of sexual abuse, and every drug addict says, well, I was sexually abused, but not 4 out of 10 women are drug addicts, well, then obviously you can be sexually abused and not turn down that path. That's a really kind of weird example.
How does that fit into trickle down?
That's a really weird example to kind of give for what I'm giving here, but what I'm basically trying to overarching
individual choice
is you are responsible for yourself. Why do I have to be responsible? Why are my taxes so high that I have to pay for this, and I have to pay for that, and I have to pay for other people's bullshit? Why can't I be responsible for myself? You come into this world alone, you leave this world alone.
But okay, so my counter to that, Dan, is if all things were equal, I would agree with your premise.
All things are equal.
All things are not equal. Justin Trudeau, if you think Justin Trudeau is distributing our tax dollars in a way that makes sure that the bottom 1% is getting taken care of, if you say that that's your argument, then I'll concede it and you win.
No.
But if you say to me, Justin Trudeau is looking out for SNC-Lavalin and a whole bunch of other people that are his closest friends and leaving a bunch of people behind, that is the epitome of what trickle-down economics is for me. Leaving people behind. Bringing people with you is a different way of thinking.
Well, I disagree with the tax breaks. Sorry, not tax breaks. What I don't like is when a company has received tax breaks and they still fail, like a Bombardier, like a SNC-Lavalin. You fail, you lose. That's what I don't like. Now, but I still agree that the initial support and help for these big companies and corporations that employ thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So you're saying you would rather see a Bombardier instead of getting bailed out, which I don't agree with, but you would rather see a Bombardier get taxed out the dick and not be able to function and have 100,000 people laid off in the province of Quebec and have to go to social assistance. Where does that money come from? Socialism is great until you run out of other people's money.
And I'm not a socialist. Anyway, Dan has not converted me, and I feel like I haven't converted Dan.
I'll tell you what, and the thing is, I think we can call this one a standoff.
There's some very good points. I'll revisit this anytime.
Exactly. So you know what, you guys can agree. This is the beautiful thing about free speech and about agreeing to disagree, having alternative opinions, and actually still being able to shake hands and walk away from the table and be here next week to continue some of the talks. One little thing that I want to bring up, which I think was kind of humorous, was not about the discussion, but just about the U.S.-China tariffs dispute. Now the U.S. has gone after China, and miraculously now that the tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum have been lifted, because I think basically U.S. kind of went, okay, well, our little partner here, we're gonna need every ally we need right now to go after China and to go after this thing. So they lifted the tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, and we responded by listing tariffs on U.S. bourbon, playing cards, and licorice.
Justin knows everything that I love.
They get steel, we get booze, cards, and licorice?
Yes.
Oh,
come on.
God bless Donald Trump.
All right. Anyway, that was alternatively. Please join us next week for the conversation, and just remember, keep it between the dishes. Just be nice to everybody.